So I'm still reading Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I just finished part 4, meaning I'm about to start the interludes of part 5. So in this version of the book, it is page 1109. The first thing I want to say is the last time I did a video on this book, I was literally one chapter away from the end of the previous part, and I did not realize. So I did the video, edited it, posted it, and then went back to reading and immediately found out that most of our heroes had ended up in Shadesmar, and I cannot believe I stopped where I stopped, but I did. So they ended up in Shadesmar, and and this may surprise you, I didn't love the Shadesmar section of the book. I don't know why, because in similar worlds, and I feel like a fantasy, this is quite a common thing, right? There's like a parallel universe or a universe that's similar but different. Like in Wheel of Time, you have Taravangians. In a ton of different books, you have different universes that kind of hold a parallel to our universe. And I don't know why I didn't like Shadesmar so much. I think maybe it's because I was enjoying the main storyline so much. And Shadesmar threw so many new things at us that although it was kind of interesting, I just wanted to get back into our storyline and continue meeting Unmade and taking steps forward and seeing what Taravangians going to do and seeing how the Fused were going to interact and the war that was coming, more scenes with Odium. So all of those things maybe detracted from my enjoyment of Shadesmar, but they're in Shadesmar. We did learn some cool things. The first thing we realize is I think Shadesmar is how people are entering Roshar. So we know there's a lot of people from different universes, or well, not different universes, from different planetary systems, and there's even people that we met from different stories. So we know for sure that Vasha is there, and now I finally figured out that Azure is Vivenna, which is awesome. I loved Vivenna in the previous book. She was fantastic. She had a great storyline. It was a lot of fun. Does this mean her sister could potentially be here with the God King? I don't know, maybe. But she's chasing down Nightblood, and I think that Nightblood might be the most dangerous weapon across all of the Cosmere. It feels like it based on it itself every time it is drawn, and then also anybody who interacts with it, it just seems to wrap them up in Nightblood's world, because he's so dangerous and such a cool weapon that they seem to spend a lot of the rest of their life revolving around getting him back or ensuring he doesn't destroy. So yes, Vivenna, pretty much confirmed, almost definitely. Her hair was even turning the silvery grey gold, not gold, silvery grey white that they had. So that was exciting. So we discovered that Syl is like one of the original or ancient daughters of like Honor and the Stormfather, which is pretty cool, meaning that she can in the future become something more. I don't know if she can step into like the Stormfather's shoes or maybe into Honor's shoes or what the deal is, but it definitely paved the way for her to have a much bigger role in the future as well. So I assume that means that Kaladin will also. I mean, that was pretty much a given considering he's one of our main characters, but nice to know that her potential is big, and there's a lot to come from her also. And we also get some pretty cool interludes. So we get an interlude with Venli, and she is having a strange time. So we have an interlude with her where she turns up to Kolinar, and she essentially is going to be like convincing people to come to their side, which is pretty cool. She has this new power form and a few other bits and bobs which are interesting also. And then later on, Dalinar tries to bring Odium's champion into his vision, and it brings Venli. Doesn't really add up, because I don't know if Venli is completely convinced. Like, she clearly doesn't like Odium. Nobody likes Odium, I feel like. I think, and here's a bold prediction, I think if she does end up being his champion, she will lose on purpose to banish Odium. I don't know if the champion situation is going to be soon or many books in the distance, but I think that she will lose on purpose to banish Odium in a spate of spite during that period of time. So this is my big prediction for Venli. I would also guess that she bonds that Spren that's like following her around if she hasn't already done it, and that will make her into something else. I don't know what it would turn her into, but it was always said that the Spren abandoned the listeners and abandoned the Parshendi for the humans. So why is that? There must be a good reason. Because obviously we've had the bombshell drop that the humans were actually the invaders in the first place. They had destroyed whatever world they came from, and it'll be interesting to know what world they came from. Maybe it was Cell, because neither of their shards seem to still be living. I don't know. But they came from elsewhere. So does that mean that Honor came from elsewhere? Not sure. I would guess maybe, because they're made in Honor's image, but I'm not 100% certain. So I don't really know where they came from. But they are the invaders, and allegedly this is what made the previous Knights Radiance down arms and abandon their oaths. And I can see how it could be pretty devastating to realize that your war is potentially unjust. However, those humans who are here now, they aren't invaders. They are just here and living. So I don't see any other option for them except for to continue battling. What does this mean for the future? I mean, why did the Spren abandon the singers and listeners in the first place? What did they do? And clearly, Odium is so evil and is so intertwined with the listeners of Parshendi. I don't know how that relationship works, but there is something pretty inherently evil with the Fused, at least, and then Odium and the Unmade. Like, there's no questioning the hatred, Odium, that comes from them. So there's more to that story. I'm not completely writing off the humans' ability to hold the moral high ground right now. Also, we get the capture of, I can't remember her name, but we get the capture of one of the heralds, and they're captured by Mraize, and she essentially turns up to try and slash picture of herself, which she's been doing throughout, but he has lured her there, and he tells her that he knows where town is. So what is going to happen with the heralds? I don't know. Are any of them sane? Not really. Maybe Nin is the closest. But it would be very cool if town was able to snap some of the others out of it, even though he seems one of the more crazed ones. So I don't really know where their storyline is going, but it would be fantastic to get a sane herald, and I would love for it to be town as well. We see that the thrill was actually, or it would appear to be, an Unmade's doing. Dalinar completely loses control. But we learn more about his backstory, and we also learn that when he initially went to the Shattered Plains, he took the long route, and he went and visited some of the old magic. We can't do anything but assume it's the Night Watcher. So we're going to see that interaction. And it feels like it feels like we know what he asked for. He wanted to be able to forget, right? And he was able to, but forget everything. But obviously there's more to that story. Like, what could it be? I don't know. But maybe he gave up something else. Maybe there's another memory he gave up, or something deeper that he completely forgot as a part of that deal. But it's impossible for me to know. I just feel like there has to be another twist in that tale. Maybe the power that he sought wasn't only the Night Watcher. Maybe it was something else as well. Maybe he met the third Spren, the big one. And who is this third Spren? I don't know. There's three that can make bondsmiths. Obviously, we have the Night Watcher. We have the Stormfather. Who is this third Spren? I thought maybe it was something to do with the mountains, or maybe that big blue Spren we saw at the start, but that didn't seem so cognitive and or all-powerful. So I don't really know. I'm excited to find out who that could be. So on to my biggest suspicion for this video. Taravangian, absolutely love him as a character. He is a grand master of three-dimensional chess when everybody else is playing checkers. And he clearly released all of the information about Dalinar and the information about the oath breaking of the Knights Radiance all in one go, to split up the unification that Dalinar had put in place, or more likely just to remove him and discredit him as the head of that, so that he can step in and take the throne that they have essentially brought together. Taravangian's body is failing him. There's no doubt about that. Even on the days where he's extremely cognitive, his body is not working very well. He needs a better body. I don't see any way we get through several more books without him doing something to fix it. There's a few solutions. The first solution would be he bonds a Spren. If he does that, and I don't think any Spren would do that though. That's the main thing. So it would be difficult for a Spren to do that because he just seems completely against what some of them stand for. However, Shalorn has done some awful. They've all done some awful things. So maybe he could bond a Spren, and maybe the Stormlight could help fix his body and put him back in better shape. The only other way I could imagine him, there's two other ways I can imagine him fixing his body. Another one is maybe he just gets hold of one of the Herald Blades, and that's not very far-fetched. He could definitely do that. I don't know if that would fix his body in the same way as maybe Stormlight would, and I don't even know if Stormlight would actually like regenerate his body. It wouldn't bring him back to being a young man, but maybe like shore him up a bit. The last one I thought of is the only other way we know someone can kind of get like a new body is if they inherit one of the shards. It happened to our boy Harmony. He took over. Well, he kind of inherited two shards, Ruin and Preservation, and you kind of become this godly creature where your body no longer matters. So could Taravangian get one of these shards? Don't see how. Really don't see how. I don't really know what happened to Honor's shard. It's been a while since we lost him. I don't know where that went or who was able to pick up those powers. I think it kind of just faded away, but I'd have to go back and double check. I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments. Cultivation, I mean, maybe. We literally haven't met her yet. I'm sure we get our first interaction by the end of this book through Dalinar's memories of his time meeting her, presumably. The final one would be Odium. That doesn't look likely. It looks like Odium is the big bad villain, or Race is the big bad villain. Well, Odium is the big bad villain, right? Meaning that Race is just a vessel. So could Taravangian be a vessel for him? Maybe, but I don't see how that happens. So I don't know which is the more likely. The more likely maybe is that he passes away, but any of those would be exciting. Taravangian as a shard. I don't know how much autonomy you managed to keep. It would seem like Harmony kept a lot of his, but if he keeps his autonomy and keeps his consciousness, and he wakes up sometimes with extreme intelligence and becomes a shard, I mean, surely he just rules the universe. I don't know how anyone could beat him, but that's an interesting thought. Renarin's storyline is interesting. I don't really know what he's up to, but clearly Urutheru has secrets, and Renarin is going to figure it out. I think that the tower maybe be able to use to defeat Unmade, and the reason I think that is, number one, they seem pretty undefeatable. I know Shalorn chased one off and thought she beat another one, but realistically, they're pretty overpowered. I don't know how they could be defeated. Maybe the Heralds were like their match, 10 versus 9. That would make sense, but the Heralds are all insane, so kind of useless right now. So what I was thinking was, one of the Unmade was on that huge gem, gem pillar column. Maybe they were left there because that column and the Stormlight can be used to activate Urutheru, and maybe Urutheru can be used to defeat things like the Unmade. How? I have no idea, but clearly the tower is like a living, breathing type of thing that can do something, right? So that has to happen. I think Renarin will figure that out because he was looking for larger gems. So he's going to do some interesting stuff, is Renarin, and he also seems to be able to get some glimpses of the future. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's something to look at. The final thing is the Headnotes have been incredible, and if my reading wasn't so broken, I feel like I'd have a lot more ideas on how the Unmade fit in and things that are happening. However, some of the more recent ones are talking about the 9th Unmade that nobody has seen. Why would that be? I would guess that it's because that Unmade is maybe the worst of them, and is maybe, I have no idea what it could be, but it must be like hiding in plain sight as some kind of power in the universe, if that makes sense. So I was trying to rack my brains of what is something kind of evil that we just think is normal now because it's been around for so long. And I couldn't think of anything. Most things are accounted for. Both storms seem to be accounted for. the Everstorm and the other one, the High Storms. Things like the Thrill. The Thrill is now accounted for. Slave form is accounted for, I think, right? So that was obviously pretty terrible for the Parshendi. There's not really any other just like things that we've accepted, that I've accepted as normal, that could be attributed to one like hidden unmade that's been around for a while. So don't know what they could be. Interested to find out. Pretty certain they're probably the worst of all of them. So that's it for this video. I'm getting close to the end here. I am going to swap from the Cosmere and go and read something different next. Just because I've been reading the Cosmere for a while. I really enjoy it, but I feel like I will enjoy it more if I take a break and then come back. So I purchased the next book in the series by Joe Abercrombie. It's one of the standalone ones called The Heroes. So from his works, these 3 books I loved. I think he has some of my favorite characters and one of my favorite writing styles that I've ever read. It's such an interesting writing style. Like, it's very poetic and it's gorgeous. And with the Cosmere, I'm always trying to figure out how this fits and how that fits and what the end goal is. And with Joe Abercrombie, I'm more just enjoying the ride, because sometimes there is no poetry. The poetry is in the lack of poetry. So it's a good juxtaposition to Brandon Sanderson, who is very careful. And although he has some beautiful scenes and some beautiful things that happen, it's more how the book comes together and how clever the foreshadowing is for the end that I enjoy with Sanderson, and how good his magic systems are with regards to fitting together really, really well. And then with Joe Abercrombie, I much prefer just the choice of words that he uses, the interactions between the characters, the irony, and well, it's called Grimdark for a reason, right? So I love this trilogy. Best Served Cold, I actually found it a little bit depressing. There were some good characters in there, but I thought that all the characters were merely just a shadow of the character we've already seen. Like Logain was obviously an incredible character, and then I can't even remember his name in here, the main guy that we followed, but he just tended to be a poor imitation. I missed Sandan Glokta, so I'm hoping the Heroes is a bit better than Best Served Cold, but my goal is to get through that one, and then probably I'll come back to the Cosmere. But if I can get through the 3 standalones with Joe Abercrombie, then apparently there's a second trilogy which has some of our original characters in there as well. So anyway, that's my plan. Will I end up doing that? Who knows? I'm pretty certain I'll read the Heroes next, and then we'll come back to the Cosmere. But I have plenty of this book still to go. The Sandalanche is well and truly building momentum. So my next video, will I have finished it? I don't know. There's a decent amount left, but I've read quite a lot this time round since the last time we spoke. So what I'm trying to say is we shall see. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.